Okay, so basically the second thing we want to do is rotate this into the correct position. To do that, you go to Modify, 3D Operations, 3D Rotate. You rotate it for the top to be actually top view. So your X and Y, use that as a reference. There we go, that's the one I want, even though I already did it. So we have that. Your next step is to cut something out in this design. I'm going to go to that right view, which gets me right in front of that face where I want to cut something out. I'm going to design something on the side here before I move it to the center. So I'm going to go to, I like spline, gives me a lot of options. I'm going to design a shape, but before I do that, I just realized the XYZ coordinate system is incorrect. I should be seeing red and green, not blue. So you can select that and rotate it. And if it's not working with you, you can rotate in 3D a little bit. Select the UCX again, making sure your ortho is on. Otherwise, you're going to rotate it to some weird angle. And rotate it towards you. Z towards you. There we go. We can now come back to that view. I see Y and X. I can now draw that spline, but without ortho. That's why I try to teach about that F8 button, because turning on ortho and off, it happens a lot. So this is about the shape I'm doing. Gonna create ortho back on, and I have the feeling you guys can figure out exactly what it is. Need to mirror it out, and I need to make it either a p-edit or region so I can extrude it out. Extrude out, extrude, enter. Doesn't matter what distance because we're just subtracting it. But the important thing is when you're moving it into position, you want to select it from the right spot. So you select the item. I'm going to move it from that corner right here, which is a perfect spot, which will hit the exact midpoint of my phone stand. To do that, make sure your O-snap is on, otherwise you won't be able to do any of these movements. Then I'm going to use the blue arrow, which is the Z coordinate system, moving it down, then red arrow to move it to the front. I went a little too low because I can see that my bottom part is not visible. I'm going to go up a little bit higher. And I have something like this, which is exactly what I want. But before I do this subtract, I always like to keep copies of my work before I do any subtract or union. Because once I screw up in subtract or union, there's no way of going back unless I undo everything. So it's safer just to keep a copy. You go to subtract, which is, I'm not in 3D modeling, I'm in drafting, so it's going to be a little bit different. Modify, 3D upper, I always forget which one's which. Here. Solid editing, subtract. Select the object you're subtracting from, enter, and select the object you're subtracting, which is this heart. Enter. There is my new design. It's worth millions. So, what you want to do next, it's up to you. You can fillet this edge so nobody hurts themselves. I know it's a heart, but you will lose blood over this. So you can go to fillet, even a really small radius, maybe a 0.0625, I think should be okay. Select that edge. There we go, it still looks like a heart. So we're good. And you can do the same thing with the bottom. It's easier to clean it if it doesn't have such a groove when it gets dirty, because these things do get dirty. There we go. And since I'm doing all the fillets, I might as well do all the edges. So only the corners. I can also do the front and back, but I might not want to do all of them. Like so. Okay. That's about what I want. Next thing is, if I want to send this to the 3D printer, what I need to do is save it as an STL. To do that, I will go to the icon here, go to Export, Other Formats, change it to STL. So you have other options here. We want an STL. So lithography, I always can't say that right. And you click, you name it, your name, and what it is, phone stand. Click save, but it's not done. It's still gonna ask you before to export, you need to pick an object that has to be a watertight. This is watertight, this is my object I want to print, not these two objects. So I select it, and I click enter. And now if I go to my desktop, because that's where it is, there's my STL, which I emailed to the 3D printing company, or to myself. And that's it.